When it comes to pain, I think I can safely call myself a bit of an expert. But this is no special or unique achievement though, because life provides all of us with a rich and varied, albeit unwanted, pain training curriculum. So by the time you reach my tender young age, chances are you've been well trained. We encounter pain early in life. First, physical pain, through things like a vaccination, a doctor's visit, a dentist's visit. We fall off our bike. Later, we strain a muscle, we break a bone, we get some surgery. Learning all along. Mental pain also enters our life quite early, as we witness or experience things like failure, blame and shame, even bullying, and inevitably also the loss of some people we love. So in effect, we are all patient experts by experience. PBs. But then why is it, if we're all PBs, that our best way and often only way of dealing with pain seems to be avoidance? Pain is that big elephant that lives in most rooms of our life and that we prefer to ignore or suppress. No wonder then that the business of pain suppression is big business. In 2015 alone, over 300 million prescriptions for painkillers were written in the world for a total cost of $24 billion, making painkillers the second most prescribed class of medicines after anti-cancer drugs. And strikingly, 95% of that consumption is in the United States and Europe, with the US taking the vast majority. So clearly, those of us who can afford it are trying to buy our way out of pain. And I'm not even mentioning other things like illegal or non-prescription drugs or alcohol. I am here today to talk about pain, because I believe that avoidance pain is not the only way forward. In fact, I believe there is huge value in understanding your pain, and I can tell you from experience that that understanding can lead to less suffering and more happiness. And to start that journey, we need to start when in our life we had no pain. And for most of us, that's before birth. Maybe you can still vaguely remember, or at least imagine, that oceanic feeling of warmth and unity with your mother. Suspended in the now, no worries, dimmed light, muffled sounds, her heartbeat. No worry, no needs, no desire. And then we get born. Suddenly, the lights are very bright, the sound's harsh. It's cold. We need to fight for air, and we get welcomed by a slap. Who wouldn't cry for that? But although birth is the biggest trauma and first trauma for many of us, birth does something else. It introduces the notion of time, because birth creates a past, a time when we were still in there and when all was still good. Then good, now not so sure. Because in the now we find things that we like and dislike. And so a second dimension enters our life, and that's the dimension of likability. And very soon, clever as we are, we also find out that we can predict things before they happen. Nice or not nice. We hear the water running and we get picked up. That's a bath. We get taken by our mom into that special sofa. Feeding time. And so we discover the future. And with the future and the past, our notion of time becomes complete. Now, our ability to learn from the past, to predict the future, is of course uniquely human. And it is what has allowed our species to arrive to where we are today. And so from birth, our mind is programmed to go and explore these four quadrants as we search our way into life. But there's one problem. Each of these quadrants, these 4 quadrants, can also become a tremendous source of pain to us. Here's how. If I liked something really in the past and I don't have it anymore today, I will feel the pain of loss. And if you ever had to lose somebody that you loved, you will know what I mean. Something we like in the future and don't yet have can cause the burning pain of desire. Something we didn't like in the past can still hurt us today through anger. If that anger is directed to others, it's blame. If it's directed to ourselves, it's the pain of guilt. And last but not least, if we see in our future things coming our way that we really don't want, that gives us that deep pain of fear. So the pain we feel today is not from the now. In fact, most of it comes from these 4 quadrants and is created in and by our mind. But be clear, that does not make the pain any less real, as I will show you with this personal example. Meet my right foot. About 30 years ago, I had some minor surgery on this foot. And very soon after, I discovered something was wrong. Everything looked okay from the outside, but inside, I was increasingly feeling pain. Totally unpredictable in timing, intensity, and duration. Sometimes a flash for a second, sometimes agony for days in a row. Medical specialists were unable to help. What they told me is, "So sorry, it happens sometimes after surgery and we don't know why. There's nothing we can do about it really, except try some pain medication. But in essence, you will have to learn to live with this." So easy said, so difficult to do, because that pain could really make my life so miserable to the point of me making the life miserable of those around me. And so, for well over 2 decades, that pain became my unwanted, irregular, unpleasant companion in life. Until I learned about these 4 quadrants and realized that in fact most of my suffering was created by me in my mind. Here's how. I would feel that very specific tingling sensation coming up in my foot, and I would immediately start adding thoughts like, "Oh no, I hope it's not going to be as bad as last time." Fear. If only I had never agreed to that surgery. Guilt. Or at least had a better surgeon. Blame. I so much missed the time before the surgery. Desire. I need a painkiller. I read it and I need it now. Desire. So I was indeed feeling some pain in the present, but I was adding layers and layers of pain from these 4 quadrants, like a real storm of suffering. Now, you can take something that causes you pain to replace my foot and start exploring in your mind how much of it is really in the now and how much of it is created by my brain that adds on these layers. Maybe you remember the first time you got into a car, hard to drive. We do this the whole time. This mechanism actually increases our pain. And it is so powerful that it can maintain the pain even after the original stimulus is gone. Just think of people who return from war, or people who survive another big trauma or a very serious illness. And even less dramatic effects can put this mechanism in motion. Just think about how many family relationships are not considered forever painful years and years after something happened. So when you are driving to that meeting, or reading your boss's email, or preparing for that exam, how much of it is really in the now? And how much of it is pain that your mind unconsciously injects from these 4 quadrants as it adds loss, anger, desire, and fear? So I realized I needed to do something. I needed to stay in the now much more. I needed my mind to train myself to at least not take pain from the past and future to augment it. And this is how I discovered mindfulness. Mindfulness is defined as a mental state which is achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, while very calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. Very rigorous scientific research shows that mindfulness quite consistently and significantly alleviates suffering across a wide range of medical conditions. And to give you just one example, mindfulness training in women with breast cancer decreases their anxiety, their depression, their fear of recurrence, and their fatigue, while at the same time improving their emotional well-being, their physical functioning, and even their physical health. So I realized this is what I want. And of course, I want it now, desire, remember? But as soon as I started, I learned that, also this path is not going to be without pain. Because like every learning, I would have to go to 4 stages. And the action to get to the next stage will inevitably involve a bit of pain. So here it is. Learning starts when we become aware through an experience or an insight of something we either don't know or are not able to do. Before this insight, we are unaware incompetence, and we don't mind. Becoming aware of an incompetence is painful. And it's one of the reasons we don't like feedback. Remember how you downloaded that program and then found out you couldn't do anything with it? Or when you got in that car to drive the first time and you found out you didn't know how to work the gears? Or you were lost in a strange city and were not able to ask for directions in the local language? Painful, right? Well, in the same way, becoming aware of my lack of mindfulness was actually quite painful. Now, training takes us to the next level. With effort, sometimes painful effort, time and good teachers, we can slowly begin to acquire the new skill. We learn to drive, we learn the language. And after a while, with sustained effort, we actually can become quite good at it, as long as we keep our mind focused on the task. Now we are competent aware. We are competent as long as we are aware. Mindfulness training consists of meditation. There are still some people who think that meditation is trying to learn to think about nothing, but that's not true. Meditation is the art of trying to bring your mind to focus on a single task in the present by focusing on something in it, which can be your breath, a candle, a sound, whatever. And as your mind starts spending more time in the present, what your mind pulls out as pain from those 4 quadrants goes away. And then we become aware competent. And with sustained practice over time, we can become unaware competent, which is the last stage. What that means is that most of you drove your car here, if you drove, without really thinking about shifting gears. You speak that language quite fluently now. You know how to use your iPad or whatever. So we have integrated the skill to the point that it becomes natural. Now, what's important is that all learning has to go to this stage. And the insight, the training, and also the practice can be quite painful. It requires effort. And that is why all training is inherently painful. But the good news is that as you get better, the pain of the learning will decrease. That's the good news. And you will feel less pain and more happiness. And that brings us to the last topic, which is happiness. Because what is happiness? Most people will agree that happiness is the highest value we seek in life, which means we can mathematically define it as a value, which is the outcome we want divided by the cost to get that outcome. Right? Clearly, pain is on the cost side. And that works mathematically wonderful, because as the pain goes up, so the value goes down. But at the same time, we all know that that's not the entire picture. Sometimes something that took us effort or pain is more valuable. We value it higher. That is only when the pain adds meaning to the outcome on top of the ratio. And so this is a very important insight, which also works in business, by the way. Pain that increases suffering reduces value. Pain that adds meaning increases value. And so what we see in our pain, meaning or suffering, is probably what makes happiness so very deeply, deeply personal. So what does it all mean? Well, first, I hope that I have convinced you that there is value in talking about pain. Let us stop this obsession to avoid pain, and let us stop the illusion that life, learning and happiness can ever be without pain. Because that awareness is the first step towards healing, towards out of pain. Secondly, let us learn and teach about the way out of pain. Just imagine that we would offer mindfulness training and meditation early on in life. How much less suffering would there be around us and even in the world? And thirdly, let's be clear. The road to less pain is entirely doable, but it's not without pain. Anybody trying to tell you that is different is probably trying to sell you something. Now, understanding my pain and finding the way out has really changed my life. Of course, I still experience pain from time to time, as also my foot keeps reminding me that I'm still alive. But I do suffer a lot less now. So my pain elephant, like yours, has not gone away and never will. But we get along much better now, to the point that I can sometimes ride it. I wish you the same. Thank you.